Nicole. So it's my first like free day. I have absolutely nothing to do in a few weeks. So my first thing I'm smoking. I'm going to get a haircut. I'm going to the gym. I'm gonna have some food, and I'm gonna like kind of take my time and just leisurely relax throughout Brooklyn. Right?
Yeah.
I get to I get high. I walk to the barber shop. I immediately see that like my barber is taken, and there's like a hint of a Hasidic kid. I'm not sure. He looked like he was hiding his garb
right
under this fucking
He's wearing a Yankee cap on top of one of those big hats.
Yeah.
Just resting right on top of it.
I was wondering why his ball cap was 3 feet off of his forehead. But yeah. So, I'm sitting there already kind of taking in the scene, figuring out my next move. And I get a call, and Nicole is hysterically crying. And I'm like, perfect. I'm just, blitzkrieg shit kicked, high out of my dick, and just, my worst nightmare. My pregnant wife just called hysterically crying. And she's like, I'm okay. But she's like, but I got into a fender bender, and I got into it with two of the worst people you could possibly get into a car accident with. She's like, the lady just threatened to kick my ass. You need to come over here. And so I immediately get up and, kind of happily, where I'm like, no measles today, gang. And I run out of the door, and I sprint the like 2 avenues and 8-10 blocks or whatever the fuck it was all the way over there. And I get there, and Nicole got into a fender bender with Bebop and Rocksteady just a purple-haired maniac of a woman.
Yeah.
Absolutely, like fucking, tattooed on eyebrows, and they don't look sane.
Yeah.
She's just, and they both are just very clearly like from New York, and the New York that they don't show you in the brochure. Just, yeah, they look like this.
Yeah. We call that East New York.
Pick up. It is, yeah, exactly that. Look at the cartoon though, even more so. Like, this was exactly how that woman looked. She was pale with purple hair, purple nails. She was shaking by the time I got there because Nicole, like, through the window was like, "Hey, I'm pregnant. Can you not threaten to beat me up? Like,
right.
I'm sorry, this was an accident." And so, she's like shaking and apologetic, and like I felt bad because it's clear her 6 brain cells were firing on overload.
Right.
And then the guy she was there with was, looked like he was lobotomied last week. Just fucking half of his lip was slung low, and he's like talking to me about like how he got into it. He's like, oh yeah, I got into a bad accident like 3 weeks ago, and he's like scanning through his phone, like trying to find this picture for me, and I'm like, I have no interest in seeing this picture, but my role at this point was to become like the Tard Absorber. Like,
right.
I had to just take on all of their just fucking insanity while Nicole like sat kind of like peacefully processing exactly what the fuck happened. So I get together what happened. And in no kind of order, because this is, I'm sure, still being flushed out, and I wasn't even a real witness. But from what I gathered was they're at one of the Atlantic Ave and one of the main avenues over there, and the light turns green. The guy all the way in the front, he started going, but his car stalled out. So the second car, I guess, like went, then stopped, then Nicole hit them, then they all kind of like packed together in a very slow moving whatever, who the fuck knows who's at fault, whatever. So the first guy just bounces. He ends up leaving. So leaving the scene. He then comes back with Bebop, and he is like, because he left his business card with them, and he's a fucking fire department deputy, like, whatever. And I was like, oh, I kind of half expecting like somebody that's like a high ranking FDNY guy, because the card was so professional.
Right.
And I get there, and it's like they gave they gave this guy a fucking kid certificate and told him he worked for the FDNY.
Yeah,
he is just a slow moving goop of a human, just slugging along. And he spills out of his car, and he's like, so we don't have to like call this in, right? And I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, so we don't have to call this, so we could handle this right here. And
what was the damage like?
Nicole, none. He had none, but their front bumper from hitting him had some. So, but they were, the Bebop and Rocksteady were trying to get me to like agree to settle. They're like, how about you guys just give me your information, and maybe we can settle it right here, and then if anything more happens, like, we'll talk about it down the line. And I'm like, Why would I give you cash and my information? If we're going to settle it, then you get nothing. You just get this cash that I'm giving you, and then that's the fucking... Well, they're like, we don't know how much a bumper is, and you're like, that makes 2 of us.
Yeah,
so I'm not doing anything.
Bumper's going to be fucking expensive because you have to paint the whole side and match it, too. Quarter paneling could be fucked up.
Of course. And, so then that guy comes in, and he's, like, also angling, trying to get this fucking...
Yeah.
And I'm like... That's it. I instantly, I white boy it, and I really cops. I just instantly call because I'm like, we need this mediated. Like, these people are fucking out of their minds. They're telling me all these stories about how this, how Rocksteady got into a fucking accident and she broke her femur and half her shin fell out of her shitter. Like she's just out of her fucking mind, telling us these horror stories. And I'm like, Nicole, thanks for ruining my day.
Yeah.
What an unbelievable thing. I'm just taking abuse from these fucking 2 morons.
Right.
And then the other guy came over and he's like, so we don't have to call it in, right? And I'm like, I just called it in front of you.
Right.
And he goes, oh, you did? And he's like, well, you can call him back and tell him forget it. And I'm like, what? And I'm like,
now there's
dude,
a record of it.
Yeah, I'm like, no, it's already called in, dude. It's got, and he's like, and I'm like, I said to him, I was like, do you know what your face does? And he goes, yeah, and he goes, what? And I'm like, I know you want me to call them and figure it out, but your face is saying you fucked up. You're not doing yourself any favors. You're very openly telling me that you don't want this to go to the police because you fucked up and you're being shady about it. Like, what the fuck?
Right.
He's like, I gotta go get my son from school. Leaves again. Then we're waiting for the cops. It ends up being 2+ hours. I mean, it takes forever.
That's why you got to say, you always tell them. Here's a little tip for you guys out there listening. If you ever get into a little car accident and they ask if anybody is injured, don't lie. Don't say yes. But you can also say, I don't know. And if you say, I don't know, then there's an ambulance there in 4 seconds.
Well, Nicole also fucked up and didn't say I'm pregnant. She should have said that. That should have been her first thing. And then it was irritating to see 9 other fucking cop cars pass, and they're like, "What's happening? Oh, suckers!" And then they drive
nobody wants
away.
to fill out that paperwork.
Then they're also like, "Oh, sent to it." We're calling other precincts. They're like, "We just passed it back to this precinct," and so forth and so on. It's like, come the fuck on. You guys are literally promoting hit and runs.
Right.
What the fuck else are we going to do? Not people,
They do want people to just fucking pay under the table. You know what I mean? It's less paperwork, less shit for them to worry about. So they're just that's why I feel like they purposely try and take that long so that you just go, forget it.
Yeah, I guess. But we already called it in. And honestly, I'm not paying these people. These, they looked like professional con artists, they've done this before. Where what's to say they don't take my money and then sue us a week later? Especially if they get both the information and some. It's I
guess the only thing there was they would be charged with leaving the scene of an accident too, and also accepting a bribe and extortion. They'd get in more trouble. I think.
I don't think so.
If they had your info, that could be bad though.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. It's just something I don't want to fucking deal with. So the guy leaves again. After 2.5 hours, the cops finally get there. They walk in, and I mean, it's pretty funny that I think some of the, cops obviously to a different extent, but comedians, cops, waiters have a very similar who we interact with on a nightly basis. Just the dregs of society. Fucking 3-eyed Chernobylian mutants. I mean, the way that they just almost half-hearted looked disgusted but unsurprised by the filth that they were encountering, just squawking mutant sounds about an old accident and this accident, and they're saying God knows what. They
do a lot of nose bridge pinching.
Oh my God. I mean, the tension headaches these people must suffer from. I get stop and frisk. No, so I'm and then as soon as they came over to talk to Nicole, they're like, oh, thank God. Thank God somebody that can string some words together in a coherent manner. They looked so relieved. They were like, can we do anything for you? And I told them, I was like, listen, we mostly called you here so we can mediate this, just so they were just getting sketchy. I was like, not to be a piece of shit, but they were trying to get to settle and blah, 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 all this stuff. And they're like, no, that's good. You did the right thing. And I'm pretty sure it got completely handled and it's totally fine. But I mean, I will say this. It made me very cocky for the future when I do get the call that my wife is in labor, and what is it, a 99.9% chance that I'm somewhat high?
Right.
I'm going to handle that like a goddamn professional.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to run.
But you're a functioning high guy.
Yeah,
you know
but
what
I didn't know. High stress situations are always a new challenge, and you never know. And what?
We'll be right back.
That's when you want to make your Irish goodbye.